Hey, this is One Dull Geek here, and I just bought myself a Stream Deck, and as an online poker player, it is a really useful tool, and for me as someone who's not just a poker player but also a streamer, and I think that this particular tool has a decided advantage for poker streamers because as poker streamers, we play a lot more tables than the average gamer. So this allows us to do a lot more easy scene switching. Anyway, so I've got two videos going on right here. I've got one that we're recording in OBS, and then the other is a picture of the Stream Deck as you can see it. So what I sort of want to go through is I want to show you how I use this in my stream setup. So the first thing, this is the scene that comes up, or the layout that comes up on my Stream Deck when I first boot it up. And what you'll see here is like there's a couple of folders here, and then there's these tools that I use commonly, and then there's a couple of things that I use a little less commonly. But this particular layout here is for the basic when I'm going to and coming out of break, including when I've started my stream in general. So before any of that happens, the very first thing that happens is I end up not in this scene very often. The first thing I do is I go to the setup scene, and in the setup scene I've got all of these buttons that what they do is they kick off certain applications and websites. So this button will launch Notepad, which is where I use things to modify my tables. This button here will launch Microsoft Excel. This starts OBS, which obviously is already running because I'm recording this. This starts Snaz. Snaz is a tool that is used to keep track of, actually you can, if you look straight up there right now, you can see that there's a time. I haven't started Snaz because the old time is there. That was when I last was streaming. So let's start Snaz. And what will happen is it will start updating the time to the current time, which is now correct, and it keeps that guy updated. So Snaz is a tool that I use for that. And then there's a bunch of websites that I open up that get me, like my Twitch dashboard, the Muxy website, the website to the jar. I start up Poker Tracker 4, and I start up Audio Router. So this is like the very first thing that I do is I go through, I start up all these things. Then after I've got them all started, I have to arrange them and lay them out in the way that I like them to show up. And then I come back to this, and I put over here this process of starting up my stream. Right? So I put this far away because I don't want to accidentally hit these things when I'm not meaning to. So the first thing I do is I go to the countdown scene, and it looks like that. Now, if I were going to stream, I'd click the Start Stream button, but I'm not going to stream right now. What I would do then is I would start my countdown video, which runs through and gives all kinds of countdowns and goes like that. Now, normally, I wait 5 minutes for this thing to finish, and then what happens is, like at the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I hit this thing, but I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to make us wait 5 minutes here, so we're just going to stop this scene, or this source, and then we're going to go in and we're going to play the Geekin' soundtrack, and that's the thing that I get to start my stream. And then while that's playing, what I'm doing is I'm waiting for it to come up, and I will hit camera, and then I'll pull my camera up at sort of the right time. And then this button, what it does is it mutes my microphone, mutes and unmutes my microphone. You can't really see that. There's no way for me to describe that. And then once the camera's up, what I'll do is I'll sit there and say, hey, fam, this is One Dull Geek, welcome to the stream, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go to this thing, which is my tables. So I tap on this, and what happens is each one of these is tied to a scene, which lets me bring up my table. So what I usually do is I go through and I say, hey, I'm in this tournament, I'm in this tournament, I'm in this tournament, and I'm in this tournament. Now, these let me bring up the top two tables. This lets me bring up the bottom two tables. This lets me bring up the left two tables, and this lets me bring up the right two tables. And then here are my four table scene. So I am in this scene or this little setup in Streamdeck all the time. Just flipping back and forth. I don't even have to look at it. I know where stuff is, and I'll say, okay, well, we're back on 4 tables, and or hey, I've got a hand over here, or oh, we got sucked out on over here, blah blah blah. And so this is where I just sit there. I look. I don't even have to look. This one's got a nice little indentation to help me figure out where things are. And then if I want to go to a table, I just press it, and it takes me to that table. Now, I have a corresponding set of tables in this little folder out here. So if I'm ever doing a no delay stream, I will come in here and I'll do it here. Now here, all of these are exactly the same. The difference here is, we're in top left. The difference here is that this scene has an extra set of stuff on it that hides my cards. And now I've got the hide card scene here, and this is the top left unhide scene. So I can, if I ever want to show people, hey, this is what my cards were on that same table. So on the right table, I've got the same thing, except over on the right table. Bottom table. Now, I tend to, when I'm doing this, I tend to play carbon tables on the bottom. And so when I've got, whoops, here. When I'm playing this, I tend to have the carbon tables on the bottom and the ACR tables on the top, so that I can come to a carbon table and have the right hiding cards show up, right? So if you notice, like, the the hiding cards are in slightly different places, and they're different. They look different, right? Because carbon and ACR's cards look different. So on the carbon tables, I've got the unhide and the rehide over here, and same on this one. Now I've also got a 2-table scene for the bottom 2, but I don't have an unhide for this because I don't ever want to unhide both sets at the same time, and I've got a top 2. Now I would like to have the left 2, the center, all 4, and the right 2, but I don't actually have that set up yet. So right now they're just sitting there. Now also on this scene and in the previous scene, I have this folder called Chat. If I go up to that one and hit Chat, you can see a whole bunch of things that I can start doing in my chat. And so we're going to go to a single table scene and get to the chat. And so what I can do is, like, down across the bottom, I've got the 5 most common streamers who show up in my stream and say hello. And so these are the people that I want to shout out the most. And you can see that, I don't know if you can see how well you can see it, but it says shout here. So if I wanted to do a shout out of Killingbird, I just press this, and you can see that it will say shout out Killingbird and come up. And then I can press this one and it shouts out Poker Pastor. And then I've also got a number of where I can just spam the chat with emotes, right? And off they go. And then for the duel game, so in Stream Elements, there's a game that says duel. And every so often people will duel me for like way more of the bits than the stream rewards than I want to do. So I'll say, no, I don't want to accept that. Or, yay, I will accept that, etc. And so there's that. And then, we'll be sitting there playing, and I'll go, and it'll be time to go to break, and I'll just pop back up, and and this is essentially the way the sequence goes. I go to the camera, I start talking, and I say, okay, fam, we're going to be back in just a little bit. I hit be right back, I hit mute. Now I've made it so that you can still hear me, and then I go. When I come back, I press the geekin, we'll stop that there. I press this sort of right after it, because what this does is it starts and stops music in Spotify, right? I don't have Spotify playing or up right now, but it'll start and stop music in Spotify. Then I play this Geekin soundtrack. At the right time, I flip to the camera, and I unmute the mic, and off we go. And that's the way that it works. Over here, when we go back over here, you can see that I've got this BitCup 1 and BitCup 2. And basically what these guys do is they turn on the BitCup or turn it off. And this is for the 1-table scene, and I've got a 2-table scene where I might want to turn on the BitCup or turn it off. And the reason I do that is, and I just added this recently, and the reason I do that is because that BitCup, holy mackerel, does it use up a lot of CPU. So I have gotten to a point where I'm thinking about whether or not, like, sometimes I want it in there, sometimes I don't want it in there, etc. And then also on this main table scene, so like when I'm coming back from break, I may do the geeking thing. I may pull the camera up and unmute. And then I quickly want to go back to, so like, Geekin's playing. And I quickly want to go back and describe, hey, I've got cards on. Hold on a minute. So I'll come back from, Be Right Back will be on. I'll come back from break. I'll go to the camera. I'll unmute. And then I'll quickly want to go to a table and say, hey, here's what's going on. But as soon as the Geekin stuff stops playing, then I want to restart Spotify so that I've got some music playing in the background. So I've got this start and stop button over there as well. And that is basically how I use my Stream Deck. It has made things incredibly simple for me. And so I like while I'm streaming, while you guys are watching me, I'm just sitting here doing this the whole time, looking at. Now I'll actually look down at it a lot because once I get to the point where I'm like really good at recognizing where this little ridge on this button is, I can just like start pressing it without having to even look at it, right? So anyway, that, my friends, is my little introduction to the Stream Deck. I hope you found it useful. I hope that I will start to discover a whole bunch more stuff that I can do with this thing. I think that there is. I think, for example, like this bit cup on and off. This enables sources on multiple scenes, right? And if you build your scenes correctly, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. So like I might have like, instead of having this be a bit cup, I might have this be some sort of like boom animation, or some sort of like thing that I would do when I got aces. I just pressed that because it would pull up a little animation over the top of everything and say, hey, I got aces, right? Now, one of the things that's really important to make this work is that you have to design all of your scenes within OBS to work in a hierarchy. And I've got some other videos on YouTube that show how I did that. Because this scene is really only, this thing here is really only in one scene. If we go down to layout table 1, this is where this bit cup scene, this bit cup item is. But because of the way I use, because of the way I've got my scenes organized, the bit cup shows up essentially in all of them, except for the scenes that it doesn't. In any case, that's how I do it. I hope it's helpful. I think there's all kinds of things you can do with this and make the streaming environment much more interactive. Hope this video is helpful to you. And if you have questions, ping me on Twitter, OneDullGeek. Also, give me a follow on Twitch, OneDullGeek, and we will talk to you in a little bit.